Hello, hello, welcome in. Sorry we don't have Lennon, Mazel's computer froze, so you're just gonna have to stick with me and Joshi here. We're getting ready for our second series of the day, Immortals Progressive Academy taking on TSM Academy. Josh, we gotta start it off looking at just one team, just gotta focus our vision onto one and then onto the next. So
True.
where would you like to begin?
Well, I think we should start at the beginning, right? Let's
Okay.
take a look at TSM a little bit, simply because it is a team that has been around since the beginning of League of Legends,
All
right?
right.
We've been seeing this roster have a lot of changes over the years, and now we got the Hyper Viper duo up in the top side of the map, and everybody is excited to see that Viper once again going to be making his way through the academy and hoping to find his way back to the LCS stage.
But playing against his old team. He's playing up
True.
against, well, his old team in the fact that it was Immortals. So I'm really curious to see how Viper is going to do, especially up against Concept. He's a big player that we have to hype up. You look over how he performed in the lock-in too. It was fun to watch him and how he played. I mean, playing the Corky top, who doesn't love that?
He plays a lot of Marksman Magical all over the place, right? He has lots of opportunities to just bring anything that auto attacks over and over and bring it towards the top side of the map. And with the roster that they put together, we also see that they have Instinct and Yurson on the opposite side of the map as the AD carry and support. And the big thing is, with so much attention being paid towards the top side of the map, we also have to see if Instinct and Yurson are going to be able to keep up. We haven't seen them being the strongest laners historically, but they also teamfight exceptionally well with relatively low resources, and that's going to be the process that we're seeing. Can they buff up the laning and continue to fight well?
But it's into a very, very experienced bot lane for Immortals, and I really want to look at the roster for them because I mean, you look towards Immortals Academy, you look at top side, newer talent. Concept, Chad, pretty, not too bad. But then you look at the bot lane, Arrow and Joey, veteran status. That is going to be rough to face off against.
A lot of people have pegged Arrow as one of their top 80 carries in the entire Academy League at this point. And that's been a consistent discussion. And it will probably continue to be a discussion, but this is the opportunity right now for Arrow to really kind of push around Instinct. And if he's able to do that, we'll give a lot of kudos to him towards the longer stage of the rest of the season. But again, just as we saw with our first series of the day, this is going to be the first litmus test for both these teams.
It is. It's going to be a good read of how they're really going to perform because we've seen a couple of these players play in the lock-in. I talked about Viper, playing the Corky. You talked about how he likes this marksman. But we've seen a couple of the players on the other side from Immortals also playing in the lock-in, getting a little bit of time, try to see how they're going to be able to perform. And I'm curious to see how that's really going to work for them because this is a team that has some new talent. I talked about that, and I wanted to start focusing on that on the top half because Chad and Instinct did play on the same Immortals next, not Immortals, 100 Thieves next team together. And so Chad, this is a player that has been hyped up for quite some time, and to see him here in Academy, this is going to be a lot of focus onto him just to see how well he's actually going to be able to perform.
Yeah, we actually have something coming up with him fairly soon, but he's one of the very exciting and very personable people on the roster as well. And I have to imagine he's going to integrate pretty well now with this new team. But the big thing is he is a Proving Grounds champion. He was on the 100 Thieves Academy roster that we were talking about that did end up winning. And if that's something that they can continue doing, it's going to look very good alongside some of these other players that they've built onto the roster. So I'm excited to see Chad to kind of live up to his name and be the Chad on the map in order to create enough space for the rest of his team to succeed.
And how is he going to really do that? I mean, Lee Sin, his Graves are really what I think of when I think of Chad. But right now, we've been seeing a lot of bans towards Lee Sin. Graves not really in the meta. It's Viego, Jarvan, Xin Zhao that we really get to see a lot in these games. And besides really maybe Xin Zhao being someone who you expect to just skirmish early and be someone who could hard carry, Viego is someone who wants to kind of farm it up, wait a little bit more. Jarvan's more about setting up his side lane, setting up other players on the team to really carry because his early mid game's really powerful, but he falls off late. Is it going to be Xin Zhao for Chad?
I mean, it might be. You said that Viego is going to be one of these champions that likes to sit around and just kind of farm, but I got an important question for you, Magical. Did you watch Mad versus G2?
I did. Oh, well, I have heard about it from you guys.
It is wild.
Because
Okay,
I've heard
yeah.
about the pathing that happened from the two junglers and how well they both played up until the 15-minute mark. So I know a lot about it. I've heard it. I need to watch it. I'll be honest. It's kind of hard to prep a lot of things. You saw what I filmed recently.
There's a lot of leaks.
It's not even that. It's like you saw what I did recently. I put a lot of attention and love and care. Well, you haven't seen it yet, have you? You got to wait till it actually airs on the broadcast. But once you do, you'll understand I put a lot of love and care into my content that I've done for Academy.
Yeah, well, that's the story we're sticking to, right? But I really can't wait to see the different styles of Viego that we often get to see, because it can be really farming. It can be really focused on trying to scale up a little bit, but it can also be really aggressive in the right matchup. So yeah, Xin Zhao, like you were asking about with Chad earlier, is very strong and has a very strong ability to aggressively attack a lot of people, as Chad is known to do. But Viego, if you go up against something like a Jarvan, can really push him around, because all you got to do, just dodge, right?
Yeah.
It's that easy.
Or you could have what happened last game that we just witnessed here on Academy, where the Jarvan goes bot lane, gets the Ezreal fed early, and you just can't play anything because Ezreal's just chunking out every time you try to step up.
Yeah, you got both sides of the same coin. So I'm expecting to see Chad going up against Hyper to be a bit favored here, because it is one of those situations where Chad going into Hyper, Chad I feel like has a little bit more competitive experience at this point. He's playing with a very strong people on his team, and I always picture people like Arrow and Joey as better, to borrow something from Dignitas Quantum Pay's Academy video earlier, better mama bears, right? They're the ones who are going to be raising their cubs up to be big and strong after this hibernation, whereas people like Viper, very strong player, but I haven't necessarily seen the same kind of veteran leadership coming out of him. He mostly just seems to be very focused on how he plays.
Yeah, but then you look across the board on the side of TSM Academy as well. A lot of newer talent, Hyper having stepped in last year. I mean, Hyper takeover, Yurson, all added to the squad just previously in the last year. Instinct only added it just recently with Viper, so I'm curious to see how they will play, how they're going to be able to do into a lot of the veterancy that comes in from Immortals Progressive. Let's dive into the bands. Lulu, Caitlyn, taken away by TSM to start it all off, while Lee Sin, taken by Immortals. Actually, no, that's not surprising. What am I saying? It's Hyper on the other side. Of course you're going to ban that.
It is still Hyper, right? You got to make sure that even if you play the champion, they still play the champion, and they're going to be the ones with first pick, and that's going to be another Chad champion taken off the table. But hey, the Viego is still available. Yeah, Chad has
it's not that.
of great
I'm talking
plays.
about Immortals banning it, though. It's Immortals banning it from TSM, so it's a surprise, because I was expecting Chad to be the one, if anybody, was going to play it. Not that they banned that away from Hyper.
No way. Okay. They instantly move off of it. I saw the Orion and was like, nobody plays this champion.
Well, you're not
right
going to
now.
blind pick it first either. Even the Silas, you're not really going to do that. The Xin Zhao makes a lot more sense to me as your first pick.
I agree. Takeover, I don't think he's that kind of psychopath just quite yet, but the Xin Zhao, as you said, already taken away from Chad, and I think it is a bit more of an opportunity for Chad to go towards the Viego. It will push them a little bit more towards that farming style, but with the Xin Zhao already picked up, they aren't immediately pressed to grab Viego for themselves right off the bat, and Viego is one of Chad's most played throughout the 2021 season.
It is, as instead of going for anything to answer that Xin Zhao, they don't really have to. They can just get their bot lane nice and secure, taking Jinx and Thresh. Aphelios probably going to be the answer, but without Lulu, maybe the Yuumi, maybe the Nautilus right there as it's locked in by Yurson are going to be the answers. And I was even wondering what Yurson was going to play here, because we look back to 2021, Alistar, his biggest performing champion, these engagers, the people who want to start off the fight, were always the thing he performed the best on. We've been seeing a lot more of the enchanters, but the Nautilus still does well with Aphelios.
Still does. You always want to be able to have the tools necessary to be really aggressive. I like all the marksmen that are being hovered as well, kind of throwing down the gauntlet towards Viper, but it is going to be the Viego like we were kind of always expecting to get picked up
Josh,
for Chad.
It's too early for that. So
It's too early?
The hovers on Orianna and Silas were way too early too. Picking up a Vayne this early when you don't even know it's going to be top lane. Even Viper's not that crazy.
I don't know. I beg to differ. I think Viper is that crazy. We've seen him do it before.
It's going to be a last pick. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but it's going to be a last pick. Their red side, you have all the opportunity to counterpick top side. That's when you draft it.
Well, we'll see if it even gets through. There's a lot of V champions that are in contention for this game, right? The Viego, the Vex, and Victor is still on the table, and so is the Vase. There's a lot of Vs.
Please ban Corki and Victor. I beg of you. Immortals, TSM, please. I don't want to cast more of this.
Well, you might be forced to, unfortunately, Magical, because we still have plenty more time to go, and they would have to ban one each if we were to get them completely off the table, and they're both just
They can do that.
good.
No, they could both ban. Like, they could ban Corki right here from Immortals, and TSM could ban Victor.
Oh,
No,
when?
Immortals bad.
Okay.
Where's the newspaper? I gotta bop him on the head.
So here's like the prisoner's dilemma, though, Magical. When they only have one ban left each, and both Corki and Victor
They're
are
not.
left
Yeah, that's
up,
what I'm saying. TSM are now not gonna ban it because Immortals needed to start it off.
well, it's about defecting, right? It's game theory optimal to not ban them so that you are guaranteed one of them.
No, you
and
ban
now,
one because then if TSM don't ban it, you get it automatically, and you waste their ban. It's
Is that how that works? TSM
Yes.
can't ban it.
no.
If TSM ban one, then Immortals get the other one.
No, they couldn't ban it second. If they just banned either Corki or Victor instead of Gwen, then they could have.
There's a lot going on here. We'll have to check the math on this one a little bit later, and we do
See?
have the Victor.
See? This is what I'm talking about, Josh. No, it's locked in. No
I love
odds.
Victor.
No
Why do you hate this champion so much?
Because it's boring.
It's so adaptable. He can do
I
anything
don't
with
care.
this champion.
I want level 1 shenaniganeries. I want them to fight. I don't want to watch
Victor's
them
level 1
lane.
is so good.
Yeah, and are we going to see it?
It's probably not going to be on screen, but it'll probably happen.
That's what I'm saying. You know what? Right there, we got Corki, Victor. Yeah. Boring. Anyway, I mean, a lot of it's looking pretty samey from both squads at the moment. Nothing too spicy. That though, that is what I want, Viper.
Man, we are once again seeing the duality of, man, I cannot stand this champion being in League of Legends in my games. And now that it comes through the game, suddenly there was already a bit of a lack of engage tools coming out from both sides. The Nautilus was there, and so was the Thresh. But now, suddenly, Viper on this Tryndamere had a lot of freedom. And I really like the fact that Concept is willing to drop the ego and just say, hey, I'm just going to beat you and make sure that you are not going to get to play the game.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, you said a lack of engage. Well, there we go.
Boom.
Malphite. Throw a rock at him.
Throw another rock. If only there was a Talia. Could you imagine a Malphite Talia skin? Anyway, we'll think about that a little more later. That can be a between game segment. Mazel, you know what kind of art you need to get working on for the next time that we get in. But this is interesting. They only have 5 seconds left to trade.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it. It looks like it's...
That's
No. People don't get to see this. But we'll tell them right now. Or do we? No. Do we spoil it?
Oh boy, I don't think we can spoil it.
Oh,
They're
we
gonna
don't
have
spoil
to
it.
find out
They'll
for
wait.
themselves.
They can wait. Well, this gives us time to talk about Viego and Xin Zhao. Why don't we talk about Viego and Xin Zhao for a bit?
Yes, it is a very astute observation there, Magical. It is a very classical matchup, just like the Corki Victor. Basically, both these are auto-attack champions, and it's a matter of which one has more stats at the time. And it starts off with Xin Zhao being undeniably the answer. It is very difficult to dodge the E and very difficult to dodge the Q. In fact, it's basically impossible to do that. And so Chad will most likely just have to go for this farming style that we were talking about previously, where you do have to just kind of avoid the Xin Zhao, pick up as much farm as you can before moving on to the rest of the map and becoming stronger later in the game.
All smart stuff. All smart
All
stuff.
smart stuff.
Yep. I was very much listening to everything you said, not just, posing the whole time.
Not staring at a couple of very interesting things that are going to be on screen for your enjoyment here in just a second.
Yeah, no. TSM didn't just make me happy by something that they're about to play as we get into our first game of our second best of 2. Takeover is taking Tryndamere mid while Viper is on the Corki top.
Super fascinating and really logical choices coming out from TSM, right? You generally want to play this Corki into melees who don't have a lot of range, who don't have a lot of ways to interact with you, because Corki has the Valkyrie on such a long cooldown that you oftentimes don't get to stay away from people. It's such a slow dash, whereas Takeover, very happy to play this Tryndamere in the mid lane. It has always done reasonably well into a lot of these control mages, and Victor is basically the #1 archetype of that right now.
And I'm not gonna lie, I am so happy TSM did this, so I don't have to look at another Corki Victor lane. This is just beautiful. Mwah, chef's kiss. And I was talking about Viper having played the Corki top lane just recently too, and here it is. Yeah, that was a great flex. The fact that you can flex that around, you can send this Corki into the Malphite in this top lane, and actually just get through a lot of the shields and resistances you normally have into any AD matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be a very different style of Malphite that we're going to have to see from Concept. I'm curious how he is going to adapt to this. There's a lot of AP builds that are very popular in ARAM, but not particularly popular in this level of play. And good play coming in from Joey and Arrow, going to take control of the bush.
Oh, and they're looking for a fight, but it looks like right now that Joey, Arrow just going to trade a little bit of damage. Joey took the brunt of the damage, but honestly, they're not really too worried at this point. They're still waiting it out.
Okay.
They're waiting to see what they can find.
Okay, they both get the wards out, and so that does mean that it is a little bit more dangerous for Joey and Arrow to sit in these bushes because they don't have the same kind of vision control. But because they spent so much time of Instinct and Yurson hitting the ward, they lost control of the wave, and that means that Arrow and Joey will hit level 2 first.
They will, and they'll be able to push back Instinct and Yurson for the time being, shove them underneath this turret for a little bit of time. But it's only for so long, right? Both these lanes, even if you have the Nautilus for that engage later on, not really like you want to look for too much, not into the Thresh anyways. Both want to see if they can just pick off the squishier target in their opponent ADC. Right there, Yurson just gets hooked, a little bit of damage, he's fine.
Yeah, canceled an auto there from Joey, missed out on a decent chunk of damage. But I also want to point out something next time we look at Viper in this level 1, the way that he was playing, is he was consistently going for dipping into the brush, right? He would go for an auto onto Concept, drawing aggro from all the minions, and then immediately jumping into the bush so that the minions, if they hadn't already gotten aggro on him, wouldn't shoot him at all. So it's one of those small things that you can use in your own games, but we see Viper do this kind of thing consistently effectively.
I like this from Takeover into Pretty. You talked about how Victor has a really good level 1, but so does Tryndamere. Tryndamere is actually pretty good at dueling early on, especially with lethal tempo. But as Pretty runs through his mana and tries to chunk out Takeover over and over again, he's really just not having that much lasting damage. He's just being healed back up by the side of Takeover, and he's constantly looking to see when he can play aggressively. Same as the spot lane. Yurson did not get the hook to land. Instead, he's got to run for the hills, has to put his legs with the tail between his legs and just walk away.
Okay, well, Pretty getting chased a little bit by Takeover, Hyper on his tail as well, and Pretty, I don't know if he recognizes that people are around, but Chad now coming down to the bottom lane, very chaotic early game after a couple of whiff skill shots, and I think this is going to be a dive coming through. There's no teleports.
This is the Chad I expect. Even on Viego, looks for these early plays, sees that there's an easy target for him to look for. The depth charge did not connect. Instead, it's going to be the fight, but that's a lot of damage on top of Chad. It's going to be first blood, still picked up by him with the lantern out.
Okay, that was really, really well done from them. They knew what target they were going for. They were able to bring them down relatively cleanly. And with the lantern ready to go, Chad was in no danger of dying in that dive either. So great play coming through from Immortals. And is there any answer coming out on the rest of the map? No, Hyper not even going to be able to take away some of these camps. He's pinging towards the Raptors saying, I think they're up, but not even able to go for them. It's just potentially a counter gank in the top side because Concept is now pushing back.
I would just think feels bad his Takeover. He missed the cannon, and he's like, yep, I know.
Sad.
I messed that up. My bad.
Sad.
Yep.
Okay.
That's one of those moments where you're like, misjudged the amount of damage I have, especially with a Doran shield. Right here, Chad. Lane to lane. Gets the gank to work out in the bot lane. Was looking to see if potentially they could make a play happen in the top lane, but because Concept is only level 5 and very little mana to his name, I don't think it could work quite as well as that bot lane play had it previously.
Well, I'm going to push back on that just a little bit, right? I don't think that Chad was ever looking for a play top lane because he's got his entire jungle to farm, but he was mostly just there because Concept had this really big wave that he needed to get under the turret so Viper wasn't going to freeze him. And because Hyper hadn't shown this entire time, it was logical that he's probably topside, ready to gank the Malphite, and Chad just needed to be around in case that was the plan Hyper was going for, sees that Malphite gets under the turret, and then he's able to go back and continue farming. But now the play is flipped to the opposite side of the map. The Hyper didn't show top side, but he is showing bottom side.
As Takeover gets another trade against Pretty, who's got no mana really to speak of in that lane, and it's going to constantly get shoved in by Takeover over and over again. And even might have to worry about Takeover looking for a solo dive onto him. While Hyper hangs around in this bot lane, pretty much doing as you had said that Chad had done it in the top lane, making sure this wave gets crashed by Instinct and Yourself.
Yep, and because they are doing it at the right time, they are going to be moving over towards the Cloud Dragon. Cloud Dragon, one of the hardest dragons to solo out just because of how much damage it does, because of how much attack speed it has. So they're going to be pulling it out, should be able to secure it relatively cleanly. And so far this game, a little bit back and forth. The only really big play we saw was Chad potentially stealing this dragon.
For the reset. It will be able to reset, but Immortals don't want to let that happen. Here's going to be the pull back in. Who's going to get the smite? It's going to go over to Chad with the lantern out, and another dredge line going wide.
Okay, we saw a little bit of unsurety between the teams on whether or not they were actually fighting. Joey does show going back over, and so he will probably have to back away. But Chad, you guys, you knew he was there.
Cleanse from Instinct, dodged away. It's all a bait, though, so they can get the kill on a Hyper onto Chad as Joey's getting rooted by the Graviton, slowed down, healed up, knocked up into the air by the 3-talent strike, and Wind becomes lightning, double kill out of Hyper.
Wow, yeah, that was just the both sides like not quite understanding the damage that they were able to do. Chad and Joey thought that they could burst out Instinct or Yurson quickly enough that they wouldn't have to worry about Hyper coming down, but they had pretty good information on exactly where everybody was in that play. It was just a matter of not quite knowing their damage correctly, and it does mean that another kill going over to TSM.
Way.
Oh, he dies.
Takeover's doing it. He's looking for the solo kill. The flash over the wall. The flash reciprocated. Solo kill.
Easy.
Takeover taking names.
Easy, easy, easy. This is why Tryndamere is so good in the mid lane. What can Control Mages do? He's going up against a manaless champion right now. How do you deal with the wave clear that Tryndamere has and how much sustain that he has? This is really, really dangerous coming through for Immortals. Pretty getting run over a little bit. Viper free farming up on the top side, and they scale so incredibly well. Looks like TSM are poised to potentially win this first game.
That's why that was such a big brain play in draft by TSM. That we were trying to make sure that we didn't spoil until the game was shown to everyone, because how much it provides. This top lane, you can see, even though Viper is going to recall here, doesn't have the TP back, it's fine. Mid lane's working so well. That solo kill on a pretty by Takeover allows Hyper all this room and flexibility around the map. The double kill he got in the bot lane too means Chad, who had had a good setup previously, no longer can really do anything to contest around that Rift Herald. Sure, you got yourself the Cloud Soul, or Cloud Dragon, but you're not really going to be able to get anything outside of that.
Not going to be able to do a whole lot, right? Look at all the members that are up on the top side all ready for TSM. Instinct, currently the only one down on the bottom side for the members of TSM FTX. You know, I got to be inclusive here, right? We are calling them Immortals progressive when we can. But they are going to be picking up this Rift Herald. Absolutely zero contest from IMT, and Hyper looking to potentially bring it towards the top side of the map. You can bring it mid and blow open the mid lane, or you can take it top and start investing in your Viper stonks.
I think that is what I would do if I was Hyper here, especially because the package is there for Viper. So Viper can take a nice eye of the Rift Herald, plop that top lane. Takeover's already won this lane. Look at how Joey and Chad have to hang around this lane so heavily just to make sure Takeover doesn't do the exact same thing again.
Yeah, he's got the blue buff, or Pretty does, so he should be able to wave clear much more effectively and deny a lot of the opportunities for Takeover to just push in uncontested. But now, hey, play coming down to the bottom side. Last time we saw Chad and Joey in this bush, it was definitely a you thought moment, and now going to have to back away. Chad not seeing the play.
See, you doubt that Takeover is going to look for a solo kill on a Pretty just because he has a blue buff. He's just waiting for Ghost. Once Ghost is available, Takeover is going to look for it, even if the blue buff is still there for Pretty.
If Takeover can go for the full HP versus full HP dive, then I
totally
clearly
he's totally going to.
It means that I clearly do not understand Tryndamere's damage, because I don't think he should be able to get away with that. But
lethal tempo, baby. That's where the lethal tempo comes in. Yeah.
He hasn't done it yet. Ghost. Okay, we got about like 20 seconds left before the Ghost comes up. He's going to be backing away.
He doesn't have Ghost. Of course he's not going to look for it yet. I said once he has the Ghost up. He doubts. He doubts, chat. He doubts. Look at this man. He doubts me and my big brain.
Well, you are Kelsey approved as the #1 analyst. So we'll find out. Okay, I'm watching very closely the Ghost timer.
Yeah, I do like that is now a thing that I'm...
Okay, he has friends. It doesn't count.
Okay, true. You know what? I'll give you that. He has friends, but that's just because they want to get more gold over Takeover. This is a fair play. They get first brick. They give it a lot of gold over there to Takeover. He's 1-0, got 20 CS over a Victor. This is GG well played.
This is very, very scary. Oh, Hyper.
I like that, but look at Takeover. He's just waiting. He's over the wall inside of 3 members, but he's got to be careful. It's Chaos Storm burning on top of him. The Zap will connect. Dying Rage, but can he escape? No, he can't. Nice play to make sure that he is not getting out of there. There's a nice read, too, from Chad.
Woo. Okay. You know, that one might not count either. Too many friends, right?
Yeah. No, that doesn't count for either of them.
Yeah, the biggest problem we have right now is, again, when you die matters a lot. If that play had happened a minute prior, wouldn't have mattered, right? It would just been 1 kill going over, this time over to Viego, which is, you know, a bit of a threat. But importantly, this kill happened right before the dragon spawns. And so suddenly Immortals going to be grabbing themselves another dragon for themselves. This time the Infernal. You have Victor and Jinx who really like having that. They will scale so much more effectively. And now that we're going to be on the Hextech map, oh no, this looks so scary for the members of IMT.
Oh, well, I haven't actually gotten to cast a Hextech Rift yet. This is like I've gotten Chemtech, I've gotten myself every other one, just not a Hextech. So this will be fun.
Yeah, so I've had a couple of casts on this map, Magical, and the biggest thing that you have to note is, in general, this map is the least impactful Rift most of the time. Right, most of the time, these are just kind of like those old Rek'Sai farm alarm. You jump out a little bit faster, and you get back on the map slightly faster, which means that one, you can back a little bit later for dragons, but more importantly than that, you get some really sick flanks where it becomes really difficult to tell where people are on the map, and for characters like Tryndamere, that gives you a lot of insane flank angles that you can go for.
I was about to say, not just even the flank angles. Imagine the split push capabilities, the flangles out of Takeover, but he also has the split push that he could fall back to if need be.
Yeah, well, we'll see if he's going to be able to leverage that. He does have a small lead. He does have the Gale Force as well, so he is super speedy all across the map. But at the same time, the unseen threat is the deadliest, and currently that threat is Viper. 20 CS up over Concept on this Corki, completely untouched. I'm really curious how much money he's gotten off of First Strike so far, because he's just completely uncontested.
Oh, poor Joey. He gets himself tried out here.
Joey.
Just too far. Yeah, pretty much just bye.
Yeah, oh, pretty. Okay, there's no ghost. So, you know, he's safe for a little while longer.
40 seconds, you'd roughly say?
Yeah, you know, 40-ish.
40-ish?
But
all right, well, I think the biggest thing is Takeover needs to get rid of this Crown of the Shadowed Queen off Pretty before that ghost comes up, so when he does look for the play, you just run at him and easily kill him.
Yeah, man, all of the tools are in TSM's hands right now. They have the scaling, they have the current lead. The one thing that they don't have is the dragons. And Chad, coming down here, like, he's not going to get a kill, and he gets spotted out. Are you going to chase him?
Go for it. Oh, no, he's waiting for it. The recall's now been completed by Chad. Pretty. Not going to hang out in the bot lane. Not even going to stay with the minions. Just going to be like, yep, nope, not risking it. I know that ghost is about to come off cooldown, Takeover. You can have the wave. I'm going to recall and just buy myself an amp tome.
Yeah, we're also getting a lot of pings towards the Rift Herald. It's coming up in about 30 seconds, which does mean that a lot of the members of TSM can come up here. They want to continue chaining this early game lead that they picked up for themselves, and a great way to do that is just toppling all the turrets and opening up the map so that Takeover can take over the game.
You know what? That actually kind of works, though, because we do have a Hextech Rift. So imagine if TSM are able to actually secure the soul on that Hextech, and you already have Tryndamere. That's just brutal.
It's a lot of attack speed and a lot of cooldown, both of which Tryndamere really like. In fact, all of these members really like the bonus attack speed. Well, they are currently going for the Rift Herald. I didn't see if Corki picked up the package. Based on his movement speed, I kind of get the feeling that he does.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's zooming, man. There's no way. Looking at what I'm sure he's got fully. Yeah, there it is. I'm like, he's zooming. There's no way he doesn't have the package.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, oh boy, man, when you get out of combat as Corki, the extra movement speed becomes so much.
Pretty, go away. I didn't want to see this. Shoot, what are you doing here? Go fight Tryndamere.
Go fight Tryndamere. I don't think he can fight Tryndamere. I'm a little bit surprised that Concept and Pretty didn't swap back. right? And just like try and get the favorable matchup and just have Corki Victor up in the top lane.
All right, that is what you would try to do, but I have
Joey?
a feeling that TSM would constantly just make sure that would never happen.
Yeah. I mean, but then it just becomes like a trade back and forth all the time. So Concept, I don't know if he still is okay in this matchup anymore, right? This matchup eventually becomes bad.
It becomes bad, but he does have the Frostfire right now, and you can already see that it's just going to be difficult for Takeover with only Gale Force Berserker's Greaves to actually truly fight back. He needs to be able to penetrate a lot of that armor that Malphite now has.
True. Okay, well, we got 20 seconds up until the dragon actually spawns. I think, yeah, the package is gone from Viper. It did time out earlier, but he still has a lot of damage coming through at this point because he's just been uncontested. He's a little bit ahead of where he would normally be in terms of his farm, but Immortals are the ones in control of the choke points, and now they're looking for any poke they can.
But they're now jumping on Chad, but gotta be careful. This Concept's going to actually get the stopwatch out of Hyper. Takeover waiting it out. That's going to be the Lantern place, but Takeover's right on top of it. Concept could not survive. It's still the kill for Takeover. Finally able to slay the beast in the tank. Immortals Progressive are forced back. They got the Hex Rifts if they need to be able to get into this Dragon Pit, but I don't think they want to contest. They want to just give over the first Dragon to TSM.
I had a friend that used to go for ults like that as the Malphite, right? Where, you know, in theory, the ult was great, right? Almost hit multiple people, but Hyper caught.
Hyper is caught. He's used the Crescent Strike, but that's a lot of damage
God,
coming in from Viper. Waiting for these missiles to keep connecting as Takeover flashes on top of Pretty. 1-2 auto. He trades his life, sure, Viper does, but he did so much for the team to help them out and get more gold in Tryndamere.
Yeah, okay. Chad now has the Corki. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but will, you know, spew out a little bit. But the big thing that we have to look back on that fight is, again, a little bit of miscommunication. Concept was so far forward that even if he had hit all of his intended targets, I don't think it would have been enough because Pretty was so far back. Pretty was on the wrong side of the wall, and even if you go for these ultimates that are not, or that are really good in isolation, they need to be in a spot where the rest of your team is ready to follow up on them, and Immortals was not in a position to do that. So the Hextech Dragon, the first one, going over towards members of TSM, and they remain in, you know, it doesn't look like that large of a lead, but it is a dominant lead for the blue side of the map.
It really is. I mean, you got a Tryndamere split push, you got even Corki with the theoretical split push for the side of TSM. I'm just wondering right now, for Immortals, they have Jinx, Victor, Viego, normally good scaling, but TSM have excellent scaling too.
Excellent scaling. Yep. But again, you always have to ask, who gets to scale? Who gets to interact later in the game? And it's not really going to be Immortals, right? It's always a range argument, and it's Corki is going to outscale you because not only does he do, you know, 1 billion damage, but he also does it from 1,000 units away where you cannot interact. Arrow is not going to get to auto attack most of these members, and the people that they can, I mean, it's Hyper Xinjiao who just throws up, you know, the Crescent guard and just says, hey, you can't hit me, and then Takeover is like, I don't care if you hit me because I'm still alive.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much TSM's name and game in this one, because they're pushing in the minions into this tier 2 on Immortals. Trying their best to see if they can defend, but if the eye has been popped, the threat is now there for Immortals. Should be able to at least get a lot of damage on to the Rift Herald. Oh, they denied the charge completely.
Well done. Okay. All right. Well, this matchup is not yet good for Takeover. Despite the fact that he is very far ahead, he is still in an awful champion matchup because Tryndamere does one thing, you know, 1.5 things. He spins and he auto attacks. You know, it's like Tyrion, except this time he has no auto attacks.
I mean, once he's able to get, like I said, when the armor pen comes in for Takeover, there's not much that Concept's going to be able to do. But at this moment, he's got a lot. So I will say, second item, Navari Quick Blades out of Takeover. This is something that we saw a bit during the offseason where Tryndamere briefly kind of became a meta during solo queue, but it kind of fell off. And now seeing it here, especially being played mid lane where he's got a lot of gold, that's going to be a lot of spinning.
A lot of spinning and very dangerous for all the squishy members. Concept, not super worried about it, but everybody else on the team, it's got to be a little bit more worried about it, right? Because once you start getting these early kills, it becomes very easy to continue getting kills for Takeover. And I don't know where the narrative came from that Tryndamere is a bad team fighter. He's a very binary team fighter, yes. Either he is killing everybody and is completely out of control, or he's doing nothing, right? But when you're this far ahead, it's very often going to be the former.
Right now, ooh, Death Brush set up by TSM. Chad nearly took the bait, but he's like, you know what? I don't see anybody right now on the Rift. I don't know where any member besides Instinct currently resides for TSM. I'm not falling for it.
Yeah, Maximilian, Chad Lisitsa, a bit too smart for that, recognizes that I cannot walk over there. I do not have any skill shots to check the bush, except my ultimate. Unfortunately, that would probably be a death sentence.
No, that's Joey.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
Yeah, it's okay.
Chad, you can go for it.
Yeah, but
You just ulted the bush. Oh no, you're rubbing off on me.
Perfect, it's working. Slowly but surely, I'm corrupting your mind.
Okay, all right. Back to the game real quick.
No,
we can get more corruption later.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So we have another dragon coming up, and this dragon is potentially the spot where Immortals will need to take their stand. We see that a lot of people are already up in the mid lane. TSM are going to be the ones who will have some push, but Pretty now a little bit in control of the pixel brush. He has some control over where things are, and Concept very far away has to teleport early, but he's not teleporting in a spot where he can take control of the choke points immediately.
Viper has the package too. Look at how he's zooming over there. They've got the potential if they want to have this flank. That's the Hex used, and it's going to be right on the trap for takeover, but he's still got the ult. He's up in the air. He's not able to get the damage he needs to just yet, but he's going to be able to heal up. Rocket going to connect. They're going to be able to get the kill resets. Arrow chasing down TSM. This fight's all going awry for TSM. They're getting chased down by the late game scaling. They've got Yerson to go crazy right now, but he is still dead. They're picking up for Joey. Only one was picked up by TSM.
Huh? What was that? Takeover! You're so strong and you just gave up all of your advantage. That was one of the very few things that Immortals could have happened in order to win that team fight. We saw an ineffective package from Viper. We saw Takeover just give up a kill, and we were saying, like, this Hex Gaze, super good for Takeover. He can find these interesting flanks. Unfortunately, it's not a flank if you just show up in the middle of the team. You aren't ODST.
Yep, pretty much. And you saw really right there, the interaction that can punish the side of TSM, especially that of Takeover, is Arrow throwing down the traps. You're going to land in the same spot every time.
Yeah, so it becomes very difficult for TSM to actually contest that. And it is going to be a third dragon going over towards the members of IMT. And that becomes a lot more dangerous for TSM because the Hextech Soul gives the members of IMT so much more catch potential. It's not the most damage in the world, but it has that slow on it that every time you catch somebody, it makes it that much easier for everybody else to just follow it up and really turn any bit of damage into a pick.
Now, with a lot of gold swung back towards Immortals, even though they are still behind 2,000 gold to that of TSM, that was a lot to help them out. They were able to get a kill over for Arrow. They were able to get Chad some gold as well. Look at that. He's got a second item, Death Dance, at the moment. So that way he's not going to be nearly as easy to actually kill when these next fights happen. Plus all the damage you're already getting from Pretty, from Arrow. He's going to be able to do a lot of work into this backline of TSM.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of opportunities to be really aggressive to disrupt some of the damage that is going to be coming through. Because as you already identified, Aphelios, Corki are going to be doing quite a bit of damage. And now Instinct does have the Lord Dominic's regard, so he is going to be able to start shredding through Concept a little bit faster than somebody like Takeover, who doesn't yet have the item completed. So Immortals, you know, they do have some ways back into this game, but it does make their game a little bit more difficult, especially considering it took a catastrophic mistake from TSM to put them in this spot. But hey, you will take it every chance you get.
Right, and the fact that they are at Soul Point right now, that is another thing that they can rely on. It's a fallback win condition for them, especially denying that for all of these auto attackers that you talked about on TSM Academy. That is a big win for Immortals Progressive.
Yeah, Immortals Progressive, hopefully will have an opportunity to continue to show what they have. And remember, this is only the first half of this game, or excuse me, of this series, right? Even if they end up going down here, they have lots of opportunities to learn, and we could potentially see another 1-1. And I know a lot of people find that really unsatisfying, but I really like seeing when you have these teams who are able to bring it back over and over again.
Right, and I'm really curious to see how this is all going to work out for both teams when you look at how the draft was here for TSM. It was a really clever switch around with the Corki top, turned to mirror mid. but you only really get that advantage one time. TSM now
True.
have shown their hand to the side of Immortals, but we're still not at that point. We're still in game one. There's always potential. Either team can win. Sole point potential for that of Immortals. Well, TSM, they still have the gold lead. They still have a good advantage, and they still have inside track if they ever want to threaten this Baron. They can take that immediately.
Yeah. And, okay, so I can't use my chess references right now. We got to talk about the Baron. We already see TSM starting to take it over, and now IMT, they need to get into the side, but Yurson has a beautiful flank.
Oh, he's just waiting it out at the moment. They think that he's there, but he's able to dodge away from Pretty, so they don't know still. Takeover's wrapped around completely to look for this flank. Now he hasn't shown his hand. Now he hasn't spoiled anything. The blast gun has been used. Going to be able to get the fear onto Chadwell, but fear is slow. But wait a minute.
Oh, he's
Pretty
dead.
just gets the kill onto Yurson that entire time, just barely off the screen. Great engage coming in from Concept, getting the Crest Strike. Hyper's got a lot of damage on top of him, flashing over the wall. They got the shutdown they needed to do onto Instinct. Well, Takeover has to run for the hills because it's a triple kill coming in from Pretty.
Yeah, we are starting to see one of the deficits of the TSM composition because they have Xin Zhao and Nautilus. They don't have a true front line. They don't have the easiest way to get all these 5-star, but Viper poking around does quite a bit of damage, but it's not going to be enough for anything. Immortals now solidly back into the game. Immortals able to bully their way through the choke points, and TSM were not able to keep them out. So with 40 seconds left, until the Dragon Soul, we already identified if Immortals can pick this up. They became monsters on trying to deal with the TSM that's splitting up.
And here they have a gold lead for the first time we've seen relatively since the very beginning of this game. They've got the inside track on it to the Hex Soul too. Arrows are looking, sure, 1-0. Not the fattest jinx, but he's got a lot of farm.
He's good.
He's fine. And next going to have the Hextech Soul onto a jinx. That's even better.
Yeah. It's looking really good. They have total control of everything. The only, criticism we could possibly have is that they don't have the top lane pushing, but Concept taking control of the mid lane, and oh no, Instinct.
Oh, and the package from Viper. He's looking for Pretty just to be able to get rid of that crown. They got the kill on Joey. The flash coming in from Viper, chasing down Pretty, getting a lot of poke, but he's got a Hex check shield, and they're going to be able to pick up the kill. All the while, Instinct is taken down. They're going to get the slow onto Viper. Takeover. He goes back into the mid lane to try to see if he can push. Arrow is going to be able to get himself excited and kill, and the soul for Immortals progresses.
It's an absolutely crazy fight all over the place, but Immortals are the ones who come out ahead. We aren't seeing the ability for TSM to actually kill Pretty or Arrow. It took them so long to take down this Victor because the Crown of the Shattered Queen buys him so much time, and suddenly we are seeing objective bounty, but not for the TSM squad, like I was, not for the side of Immortals, but for TSM. And if you told me that at the beginning of the game, I would have been super, super surprised. But now Immortals, because they have this well-rounded composition and have the engage tools, they're taking control of the game.
Pretty much now, TSM, it's back to the drawing boards with this composition. What do you do in order to get control back? I think it's set up the 1-3-1s. Viper and Takeover are going to be big threats in any one of these side lanes. Even with the Baron buff on top of Immortals, there's a lot of pressure that they can provide.
Look, if you can get the mid lane pushed out far enough that you aren't at risk, oh gosh, look at how much slow there is on that play right there. But the big thing is, if you want to go for a 1-3-1 at this point, Magical, you really need to get the mid lane pushed out so that your 3 aren't under threat. Because the one thing that 1-3-1 compositions really thrive in is when the opposing 5 can't get fights started. But when you have a Malphite on your team, it's very easy to just press R and say, I am fighting you now.
And you have Randuin's Omen too for extra slow, so they're not able to get away. You don't have to worry about the crits coming in from these carries, such as Takeover Instinct. A lot is going well right now for the front line of Immortals. Even though we are seeing a little bit of the comeback gold, the objective bounties picked up by TSM to try to help them out just a little bit. They're still down to the 2,000 gold here, 30 minutes into the game, and a Hextech Soul.
Okay. Well, we are going to have to see. Viper still has the opportunity to poke them out from a long way away. Notice that Arrow is still kind of low at this point. A couple more rockets could potentially kill him if he ends up standing in the wrong spot. But the biggest thing is they're just trying to stall out the Baron, which they have already done so in Takeover, trying to get the mid lane pushed out so there's no threat. And this is kind of like what you were talking about, right? Just making sure that you split up Immortals. If you can get waves pushed towards Immortals side of the map, TSM aren't under that much threat because there won't be any waves for Immortals to use after the fight.
Exactly. You gotta make sure you're getting control of some part of the map, right? STSM. Here, it's not like it's a massive gold lead, nor was it a massive gold lead before for TSM when they were the ones in the driver's seat. But the big difference is that Hextech soul, especially because we've seen the slows twice now, one for Arrow and one for Chad, and how much that can slow down any potential for Takeover to get into the backline.
Yeah. Okay, well, real quick, Magical, since we have a couple minutes before any objective spawns, can I talk about chess for a second?
Okay.
Okay, so a major part in playing high-level chess is understanding your opponent's openings and what they're likely to play. And so there's a lot of similarity here in the draft. And so one of the things that I really like TSM have done in their first game, if they've shown an opening, they've shown a draft, and said, we are willing to flex this Tryndamere whenever we can. And it suddenly means that everybody else now has to do a ton of extra work trying to prep for this really weird opening that they're not going to see against most other teams. So TSM, you know, they're taking the page out of like a Grandmaster meta for an entirely different game, and it's going to give them a lot more fear from opponents in future games.
I'll pretend like I understood a lot of that.
It's okay. You just need to know, like, pick Tryndamere and make people afraid.
Got it. Good. Easy.
Yeah.
All right. It's right now, Chad, in a little bit of danger. Forced to use ult just to escape. Looking for the slow on top of Viper, but it's going to be your son instead taking that. All the while, Takeover denies Concept from taking this turret, but he's got that Randuin's I talked about before. Denies a lot of the crit that could come in from this Tryndamere. And so you see that Takeover, he just takes a little bit of poke coming in from Pretty, and he's already forced back.
Yeah, there's no sustain on this Tryndamere build, and it does mean that this turret is going to go down. Inhibitor going to be following, and it's coming at a pretty terrible time. It's so hard for TSM to try and take this fight right now, because if they do, and it means that they won't have ultimates available for the upcoming Elder Dragon fight or for the Baron fight, and you need to make sure you're taking fights at the right time at this point. But look at this, the bush.
Oh, sneaky, sneaky there, Immortals Progressive. But unfortunately, it was Takeover that you were going towards, and he's tanking it all up. Might finally fall there. The red buff kill for Chad. Without your Tryndamere, TSM, what can you do to keep this game going?
There's not a lot. They used a couple of major ultimates there. They're not going to have Aphelios. They're not going to have Xin Zhao to really have the same kind of impact in his upcoming Baron fight. It's looking like a disaster for TSM. They were so far ahead, but this Mel fight that has been picked up by Concept has finally, or not finally, has been paying off so many dividends at this point.
And look at his cooldown on that ult. Unstoppable Force is going to come off the cooldown just relatively soon as the package is used by Viper to cut off anybody in Immortals. They're all in the pit. A lot of damage. It's the split off, but they're just trying to see if they can get anybody killed. Your son is going to be the casualty in the fight. Concept still alive. The Baron never reset. Viper's got to hope for a miracle steal here with the missiles, but couldn't find it. The recalls will come off Viper. He might give his own life while he takes Joey with him.
The package just wasn't there, and Concept didn't even need the ultimate. They only lose Joy, but Yurson and Viper are still going to be down when the Elder Dragon actually spawns. Immortals in prime position. They have everything that they need to set up the end of the game. The only thing they need to do is execute on it. They can find Takeover here. If they find anybody before the fight actually starts, it could potentially be the end. Oh, Hex Gates.
Oh no, it's Hyper who's getting spotted out. Takeover was the bait for his own team. Hyper unfortunately will fall. Takeover has to run back to his base yet again.
Yeah, we're seeing great play coming out from Immortals. They're playing a very simple style of composition, and it's working. Now, Chad's going to take a long time to do this, but he's completely uncontested, and I love the fact that the rest of the Immortals, they're not there. They don't need to do the Elder Dragon quickly. They just need to make sure that it never falls into the hands of TSM, and by creating pressure on the rest of the map, you do not allow TSM to move over there.
They might just end the game before the Elder's even taken by Chad at this point. They've got a lot of damage onto the next turret. It does finally go their way. They've got themselves that dragon, but the pull's going to come in from Yurson. You took in the tank. They've got Elder. What did you expect to happen there, Yurson? Immortals just going to look to end this game because now Chad's right behind them. The next turrets are gone. Hyper dives in, but he's just going to die after that shield is gone. And there comes the snipes in. Takeover might be able to get one, but he was looking for the shutdown, but he couldn't get it. Immortals Progressive will take game one even after a cheeky draft came in from TSM.
Oh man, and Arrow making sure that we can't say that he had a deathless game there at the very end. But hey, it was a dominant victory. I was not convinced by this composition off the bat. I thought Viper was going to really take over the game, but we never saw that come to fruition. The packages weren't there. Takeover was not able to convert his lead from the mid lane on the rest of the map. And so both teams, once again, gonna have a lot of tape to go over off of this in order to review and figure out what they need to do in order to come back in the second half even stronger.
Like I said, I loved the draft. I loved the idea from TSM. Unfortunately, it was just a couple of those fights that just didn't work out. That one big one for Takeover where he gets spotted out immediately, traps on top of him. He uses his ult, but he's not actually able to do any damage.
That's kind of the tragedy that comes through, right? He thought he was far enough ahead that he could go for all kinds of different builds. The Navori Quick Blades coming through does mean that if he ever catches something in isolation, it's going to be very, very scary. But you don't necessarily end up in a spot where you are going to catch people in isolation. And when you have a Malphite, you have a very easy rallying point to group around. And it does mean that Immortals, easy win condition, they're able to execute it, and it just means that they are able to take down the first game.
And for now, we have a 1-0 lead for Immortals Progressive Academy. We're going to toss it to break. In fact, we're actually going to even hear from Chad and hear an interview that I think you did recently with him.
Yeah,